Hi guys, my name is Paweł and today I would like to talk about REST. No, not the representational state transfer. That's going to be covered in another video soon. It literally means REST, but we will get there in a minute. REST parameters is a relatively new feature introduced in ECMAScript 6, also known as ECMAScript 2015. In short, it allows you to access the list of arguments passed to the function without actually declaring them. Sounds very cool and very new, right? Wrong. We had it before as a special object available in functions called arguments. It is an array-like object that contains a list of arguments passed to the function. Keyword here are an array-like object and all arguments. Even though the arguments object has length property and you can access the items using zero-based index, it is not actually an array. There are no standards for array interface methods like for each, keys or shift. Because of that, to produce arguments like a regular array, you will find a lot of examples like array prototype slice call arguments or array slice call arguments. This looks more like hacking and not programming. This special object contains all arguments regardless of the list of the arguments defined in the function declaration. This means that if you define a single argument but the function can actually accept any number of arguments, then when you want to access the other arguments, you have to start counting from a specific index. Maybe it is not a challenging programming task, but for sure it does not help you focus on the actual implementation of your algorithm, but rather on language workarounds. So why would you use the arguments object in the first place? JavaScript is cool enough to allow you to call a function with any number of arguments regardless of the actual function definition. You can use this for your advantage to reduce the size of your code and to simplify the logic. Say, you are developing an application that is a calculator. Because we want to make it simple, our calculator can only add. For an addition to make sense, you need at least 2 arguments. But then, you may have any number of arguments because the user may enter more than 2 arguments to sum them together. To do this, we are going to use REST parameters. Like I said before, REST parameters are similar to the arguments object. REST parameters are defined as a variable with 3 dots as the name's prefix. Given this, we can declare our add function with REST parameters. Let's do it. So our function will be function add REST parameters, 3 dots and args, and our function declaration. Our function will return arguments, which is an array, so we can use the reduce function, which callback function, the first argument is the accumulator and the second is the value. Our function returns the sum of both, so accumulator plus value. The initial value is 0. To complete our function, I use the reduce function of the array interface. If you don't know the reduce function, there's probably a video for that. In short, it iterates over each element of the array and passes the result of previous iteration as an argument. The first iteration uses the initial value, which I declared as 0. This add function adds any number of arguments together. Well, as long as they are numbers, as I don't do any type check. The point here is, I was able to do this without using any tricks I would use with the arguments object. Okay, you may ask now, why is it called REST parameters? You said it literally means the REST, Paweł. Well, yes, the principle for REST parameters is that it contains a list of arguments that hasn't been defined in the function declaration. Also, REST parameters can only occur in the function declaration as the last argument. This is the main difference between the arguments object and the REST parameters. We can change our add function to always accept two arguments like a and b, and then the rest of parameters as an array. The beauty of REST parameters is that it is always an array, even if you don't pass any argument. We can change our function to accept a and b arguments, then REST, which is args. And now I am declaring some initial value init, which is equal to a plus b. And we're gonna use the reduce function again, but the initial value is not 0, but init. So what it does, it adds the first arguments and use the init function to initialize the reduce function. And if there is any additional argument, it will be added to the init function. Finally, the REST parameters can be combined with the destructing assignment. I will cover this assignment in detail in another video, but for now you should know that you can copy values and properties of an object to another object using the same notation. Let's try to visualize this. So let's say I have an object that is first, and it equals some a equals 1. Then I want to create a copy of the first object. So I'm gonna use the first destructing assignment, and I can declare some other property. Let's say b equals 2. And this is our copy. Now the copy object has a copy of a property of the first object, a new property added with the declaration of copy object. Because primitive values are passed by value and not by a reference, changing the a property on the copy object won't change it in the first object. This way you can create a shallow copy of an object. To summarize, REST parameters collect multiple elements and condenses them into a single element. It may help you with the code you are writing to simplify the logic. I am using it quite often in my programs. If you like this video, please subscribe to see more content like this. See you next time, and thanks for watching.